Happy December. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We have two exciting guest speakers. Well, actually one is the host, so Antje Barth, and Haley Crosby also. So all three of us work for AWS. We all do participate quite heavily in open source technologies, so that's kind of the rare sort of value add for us three. Haley comes from Google and actually worked a little bit on the Kubeflow project before. Today, she's going to be talking about SageMaker Pipelines. So we just had a massive amount of SageMaker releases and AI and machine learning releases during reInvent over the last couple weeks. We're going to start today with Antje, who has been co-hosting this webinar for pretty much the last year or two. She's going to start off with a quick high-level intro to all of the big releases that came out, or at least the ones that we found the most relevant. She'll finish off talking about pipelines, and then Haley will come in and actually give us a deep dive with demo and source code and blog posts coming out soon if it hasn't been released already. And so I think at this point, oh, and then quick plug, of course. So we've got the data science on AWS book coming out very soon. Me and Antje have been working pretty feverishly over the last, really the last 1 year, but specifically the last month, we've been adding all of the new releases. We purposely waited to release this book until we had all the releases come in from reInvent, and we had a chance to study all of them and extract out what we need to keep the narrative current. So there's our final book cover, by the way. It's a full color duck. We didn't get a chance to actually pick the cover. That's the privilege O'Reilly takes upon themselves. So, but it's kind of cool. I like ducks. I don't really know too many people that don't like a duck. And okay, so yeah, Antje, why don't you take it away? Let me post the link here into the chat, and I will be answering questions as we go along. Antje, are you ready?
Sure, yeah, sounds good. So let me quickly switch over here to my PowerPoint. And really just a couple of, quick recap from all of the announcements that just happened over the course of 3 weeks of reInvent. So let me quickly go here. So let's see what happened. And as you can see here, this is kind of the overview slide of the AWS ML Stack. And it's getting a little bit busy on that slide, as you can see, right? There has been so many new services being launched and new capabilities. So it's quite exciting if you can see the whole portfolio that AWS currently offers in the different layers here. And the way we organize this at AWS is kind of highlighting at the top what we call the AI services. So these are really kind of the ready to use services you can integrate into your applications with an API call, and you can leverage a lot of the pre-trained ML AI functionality. So a lot of services have been around for a little bit, and there have been a lot of new introductions during reInvent here, specifically focusing on the industrial AI environment. There's a lot of services that help you to implement predictive maintenance, smart analytics, etc. And also around healthcare. So there's an Amazon Health Lake service available right now that helps you to analyze and make sense of healthcare data. So a lot of good things happened in that space. And also what we're going to focus a lot more in today's session is the middle tier layer here, which is called the ML services, machine learning services, which focus pretty much on the capabilities of Amazon SageMaker as the managed service to build, train, tune, and deploy machine learning models. And there have been really a couple of great additions, and one of them, which Haley will present in more depth here today, around how you can build automated pipelines to automate your different model development workflow steps. And then also in the bottom layer here, which is pretty much talking about the frameworks and infrastructure. So where you can customize and pick and choose if you want to build it yourself. There have been a couple of announcements as well with new instances coming out, and I'll just briefly going to touch on that as well. All right, so again, for the AI services, there has been a lot of innovation coming out for the industrial IoT environments with services such as AWS Panorama, Amazon Monitron, Lookout for Equipment, Lookout for Vision, that really help you in the combination to implement smart use cases in the IoT industrial environment. And also maybe one more to add here is for the software developers. So maybe you've heard of Amazon Code Guru, which now also supports Python. So until recently, it was support for Java. You can now also use Code Guru to profile and analyze your code with Python. And then also there's a new service around DevOps Guru. So a lot of good things happening in that area. For today, I want to give a little bit more insights here really into the machine learning framework layer, so around Amazon SageMaker. And maybe some of you have followed the announcements. So there was a lot of new additions to that layer, starting at the very beginning here with a service called Data Wrangler, which helps you to prepare and quickly, wrangle your data. If you need to convert, columns in your data from one type to another, dropping columns, creating some features. So really, really nice tool. Also a no code, so you can pretty much use that from the Studio IDE environment that SageMaker offers, and really easily create those data conversations, transformations, etc. Also, there have been a feature store edit. So for those of you who are looking into creating, managing maybe a feature store in your model development lifecycle, have a look at the capabilities. SageMaker now also supports the storing and sharing of features. And then there have been further additions to help with model explainability with SageMaker Clarify. There have been additions for distributed training, and as we're going to see, around pipelines and ML ops automation. So brief overview here, not to take too much time for this overview, but really just highlighting maybe on a couple of those items that have been introduced. So here's kind of the mapping with the new additions in the prepare, build, train, deploy stage. And what I'm going to do here is just quickly highlight a few of them for you. So one I haven't yet mentioned is Amazon SageMaker JumpStart. And JumpStart comes with pre-built solutions, which you can easily, pretty much with a click of a button, deploy around very common business problems, and also integrating with TensorFlow Hub and PyTorch Hub for specific pre-trained models that help you to deploy them right away. So what you can do here, if you go to the JumpStart environment, you can browse the different solutions. So for example, around predictive maintenance, demand forecasting, fraud detection, credit risk prediction, etc. And you can see it here. So a lot of kind of the business problems, and you can choose them and then deploy the environment, which will include the Jupyter notebooks to run the solutions, which will pretty much include the models, some of them coming from the marketplace, etc. Some of them coming from hubs like TensorFlow, PyTorch Hub, etc. And the idea here is to give you really, as the name says, a jump start and really a quick start in deploying those solutions on SageMaker. So pretty exciting. And there's over 150 of those pre-trained open source models available via the PyTorch Hub and TensorFlow Hub. So across the different areas, whether you're doing vision or text, check it out. Really, really great resource, especially Chris and I have been focusing a lot on the NLP use case for our book and the workshop. So it's great to see that there's also the possibility, especially in the NLP space here, to pull down BERT models or BERT or distilled models from the hubs, and then really right away, you're able to use them. And you can access it via SageMaker Studio. So if you haven't used it yet, it's kind of the integrated IDE offered as part of the SageMaker service. And you can go in there via the console and then click on the JumpStart icon on the left menu. And this takes you to the environment. You can browse and search for the solutions. And then pretty much, as I said, right click and deploy them. So really easy. The other thing I just want to quickly highlight here is the data preparation service. So we launched SageMaker Data Wrangler, and this really helps you to easily import your data and then in a very UI-driven fashion, convert the feature, prepare the features, etc. Do type conversations, do also some analytics on the data. So you can also visualize the data, check if there's any bias in your data set. So it also integrates with Clarify and really helps you, especially coming more from the data science background where you might have not the deepest knowledge in how to run data preprocessing with Spark maybe, and you just want to have a quick environment, a quick tool, to prepare a little bit the data. So here's a quick screenshot of how it looks. Again, it's integrated into the Studio environment. So you can select data that's coming either from Amazon Athena, which is the interactive Presto-based query service, from Redshift, the data warehouse, any data lakes built on S3 with lake formation, or really the data sitting in S3. And then you can import it here, and then you can start wrangling the data. So you can see here how the data looks, and you can transform it. And there's over 300 built-in data transformations. So you can pretty much, as you can see here in the screenshots, pick and choose from the different transformations, tokenize the data, one hot encode, whatever you need to do on the data set, and then export it. You can visualize it to understand your data better and plot it here, and also check if there's any bias towards a specific class maybe in your data set as well. So pretty nice. You can create analysis here to do a quick estimate how the model accuracy would be. So it basically spins up a quick model just to check how the data is performing. All right, and then you can export those data preparation workflows and then use it, for example, with SageMaker Pipelines to automate the process here. All right, and then just one more thing I want to highlight here from the SageMaker environment, which is additional capabilities for SageMaker Debugger. So Debugger has been already launched for quite a while. So with debugging, you can inspect, monitor, and analyze your model training. So while your model is training, you're able to capture the tensors throughout the training and understand what's happening. And what we've added here is deeper profiling capabilities. So despite just detecting whether the model is overtraining or the loss is not increasing, those has been rules that already have been implemented and you could use with your training job. You are now also able to do resource and system profiling. So in the same fashion, while your training job is running, the debugger will analyze the underlying resources, which is pretty much your instance you're choosing, right? So let's say you're picking a GPU-based instance to run your model training. Debugger will then analyze if there's any GPU memory or GPU compute bottlenecks, if the batch sizes might not be perfect, if you're underutilizing or overutilizing the infrastructure, etc. So really, really good profiling to understand how you can optimize further, how much time also like the model is spending in each phase in the training. So you will also have specific framework metrics in addition to the infrastructure instance metrics here. So really, really great capabilities. If you want to have more insights into how the model training job is performing and how the underlying instances and infrastructure you've chosen is suited, or if you can optimize even further. And then you can also, as you can see here, have the nice charts that visualize the utilization. It gives you the recommendations. So whether you encountered a CPU bottleneck or a long initialization time was observed, and it's given you advice on how to optimize and how to correct, and also how to take any actions based on the observations here. So really, really great insights into the model training. And then really just here to wrap it up, and before I hand it over to Hallie, quickly on the frameworks and infrastructure part, we announced some more great things to come next year. So those are announcements to come in 2021. And one is the Habana-based instances, which is EC2 instances that are powered by the accelerated chips named Habana Gaudi from the Intel company Habana Labs. And those promise to have up to 40% better price performance compared to the current GPU-based instances, and also supporting specifically ML frameworks such as TensorFlow and PyTorch. So pretty excited about the new hardware that is coming there. And if you've heard of the AWS Inferentia chips, which is custom-built silicon from AWS to help give a better price performance point specifically for machine learning inference workloads, we now also announced the AWS Trainium, which is also a custom-built silicon specifically targeted for the training phase. So this one will also leverage, similar to the Inferentia chip, the Neuron SDK, which you can use to basically compile your frameworks to run on the Trainium instances. So really exciting to see what's coming here. And again, also the Trainium is a pre-announcement and hopefully will come soon in 2021. All right, that was really just a very brief overview of a few of the announcements around machine learning and AI for the last 3 weeks at reInvent. And I'm handing back now to Chris, and we will have Hallie now showing us in more detail how we can use the new capabilities of SageMaker Pipelines to build the automated machine learning pipelines and integrate with the GitOps approach. So back to you, Chris, and Hallie to take over.
Hello. Okay. Sorry about that. I lost audio right at the critical time. Okay, yeah, so Haley's getting set up here. Real quick plug also, we just updated the dates for our workshops in 2021. We had put them on hold while we add all the new content from reInvent. So we've got new dates. I believe they start in February. It'll be the third Saturday for pretty much the whole rest of the year. And so let's see, we got that in there. Yeah, great summary, Ansha. This is probably one of the very first summaries since reInvent. So we're excited to share this with you. And next up, we have Haley. Haley, if you could introduce yourself, tell us where you came from, what you're doing over at AWS, and get right into it.
Perfect, thanks, Chris. So my name's Hallie. I am a machine learning solutions architect, currently working at AWS. Spent a couple of years at Google Cloud Platform as well. My main focus is machine learning operations, whether that's through open source tools or through managed tools like Amazon SageMaker Pipelines. So today I'll walk through a few slides just so you can grasp the high-level concept of what it is SageMaker Pipelines addresses, and then we'll dig into the console and have a hands-on demo, and I'll pass along the code as well. It's uploaded to AWS GitHub. So SageMaker Pipelines, it's a pretty exciting new feature that we introduced at reInvent 2020. So with pipelines, whether you're a data scientist or a machine learning engineer, you can codify your workloads and workflows into repeatable, trackable pipelines to help automate what would otherwise be considered manual tasks. So SageMaker Pipelines covers the whole life cycle of a model, all the way from retrieving and processing data through deployment. This is particularly useful for use cases where you are retraining and redeploying models on a regular basis. So in traditional software development, continuous integration, continuous development, pipelines are used to automate the deployment of workflows, as well as keeping them updated. So CI/CD pipelines reduce errors and provide feedback loops to enable fast iterations. But in machine learning, CI/CD style tools are rarely used because where they do exist, they're super hard to set up, configure, manage. They're more oriented to the DevOps user and not the data scientist user. And so to do this, you need to create standardized code recipes for your data preparation, your model training, model development, and then kind of stitch them together into a workflow so they execute as an automated sequence of steps. So you're going to need to package hundreds of code recipes, define the order in which they need to execute, keeping track of the code, the data, the model parameter dependencies between each of the steps. And then, of course, after the models are deployed, you need to write code to continuously monitor the models and data in production, because changes in real-time data can cause the model to become biased or make inaccurate predictions. So if a problem is detected, you need to write more code to retrain the models, which takes the model out of production, slows down the business. So many model builders don't have time or the experience to create these CI/CD pipelines, so they rely on these manual handoffs between teams. So this can delay the time frame with which a model is developed to deployment, and then also allow errors to pop up in each of the phases as well. So Amazon SageMaker Pipelines is an ML CI/CD service accessible to every developer and data scientist. So it brings CI/CD pipelines to machine learning, reducing this months of coding required to manually stitch together the different code packages. So with just a few clicks in SageMaker Pipelines, you can create an automated machine learning workflow. So it takes care of all the heavy lifting involved with managing the dependencies between each step of the workflow, and it orchestrates them so you can scale to thousands of models in production and expand your use of machine learning across multiple lines of business. So Pipelines provides comprehensive steps, including data preparation, transformation in Data Wrangler, algorithm setup, debugging, model optimization, and more. So pretty much anything you can do in SageMaker, you can add to your workflow. And Pipelines is going to keep track of every step, and you can rerun the workflow at any time. Workflows can be shared and reused between teams inside your organization, either to recreate a model or as a starting point to make improvements through new features, new algorithms, new optimizations. So to help you get started quickly, SageMaker Pipelines offers pre-configured templates for model building and model deployment pipelines, and the templates are fully customizable. And once created, the workflows can be visualized and managed within the SageMaker Studio, allowing you to compare model performance so you then can select and deploy the best model for your specific use case. So essentially here, kind of talked about these different things, but one of the big key benefit here is tracking your model artifacts, and then also being able to scale. You're no longer managing this process on a model by model basis. You're able to have multiple models managed at the same time. Also here, as you would expect, after pipelines get created, they can be executed an unlimited number of times. After you run a pipeline, your pipeline execution history can be seen within SageMaker Studio. You can visually see the results of each pipeline run, as well as each pipeline step. And speaking of steps, it's good to think about pipelines as being a series of steps. And what is neat is that the output of one step can become the input to the next step. So for example, the output of your data processing step can become the input to your model training step. And then after models get trained, they can be added to a model registry. So the model registry is important because from there, you can bring models through CI/CD workflows. So something I mentioned in the previous slide and something we at AWS have heard from customers is that it's usually your DevOps groups that want to define your CI/CD workflows and recipes. So we're enabling DevOps groups to continue using the tools that they know within AWS, tools like Code Pipeline, Code Build, and CloudFormation templates. And then they can expose those workflows to data scientists as projects within SageMaker Studio. And in the demo, we'll walk through what that workflow looks like, both from a data scientist perspective and also from a DevOps perspective. So in thinking about the whole life cycle of a model, after models get deployed through that CI/CD workflow, data scientists will then be able to monitor the results of those models all within a single pane of glass within SageMaker Studio. So before we dive into the demo, this is kind of bringing it a bit more to real life and some of the common use cases where retraining and redeployment is particularly common. So demand forecasting. So this might be something where you have changes either daily or weekly within the data. You also have customer churn prediction. So maybe there's new data fields being added, you've added a new product, you know, different changes you can incorporate into your model. Oh, sorry.
Kelly, sorry to interrupt. I think we don't see your slides anymore. Sorry.
Oh, interesting.
I think the screen share stopped.
Let me just go back and hit share.
Yeah.
Can you see them again?
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for interrupting.
Thank you. No, thank you. And then, so personal recommendations. So I'm sure a lot of you have been doing a lot of Christmas shopping and you get more recommended products, the more things you buy. So those models need to be updated as well. And then finally, predictive maintenance. So these are models that do things like detecting defect products, detecting when a part in a manufacturing assembly is going to fail, different things where you've got massive amounts of data and you need to track trends. So I'll give an overview before I move into the demo. This is how we think of pipelines. So within the Amazon SageMaker Pipelines workflow, you have your input data, you have your data transformations, your explanation of, you know, which data point is most important here, sort of that exploratory data analysis piece. Then you have your training of the model, validating of the model accuracy, and then the model registry. So this is a catalog of model versions, metrics, and then what we'll also walk through in the demo is see the approval workflow for model deployment, both to a staging environment and a production environment. And then of course, depending on your use case, this can either be real-time inference or batch inference as well. So if we dive into how pipeline specifically works is, as I said before, it's best to think of it as a series of steps. So a pipeline can be initiated through one of several ways. They can be executed manually by a data scientist, either through the Python SDK, the CLI, or the SageMaker Studio interface. They can also be triggered by CloudWatch events, such as when new data comes into S3 buckets. And lastly, they can also be initiated when code gets checked into your source code control repository. And that's the example I'll be showing you in the demo, kind of what happens when we update the pipeline file and we push that code. Where is that tracked and how does that kick off a workflow? So let me switch over to the demo. Before I do that, I just want to share this link here. This is where the code sits, both for the out-of-the-box example on some abalone data set, and then the custom data set workflow. So if you want to take this Hello World example and customize it to your specific use case, we've got some example code in there. Let me switch screens. This is the Amazon SageMaker Studio control panel here. If we go back, you can see that let me go to a different region. It's saying I have no users, live demos. Okay, so I'll just go straight into this Amazon SageMaker Studio. So you can have different users within your studio experience. And this is what the home screen looks like. You've got where you can launch everything. The new tab here is the Components and Registries tab. And particularly, we can go to projects. You can also see pipelines, model registry, and then a few of the other new features that's been launched as well. So let's walk through the workflow of creating a new project. Here we can see we have organization templates, and then we also have SageMaker templates. So right now I don't have any organization templates. This is where your CloudFormation templates would set if you built custom templates for your organization. SageMaker templates, we have 3 different choices here. So the MLOps template for model deployment is going to deploy your machine learning models from the Amazon SageMaker model registry to Amazon SageMaker endpoints for real-time inference. You can adopt MLOps best practices and enable this continuous integration, continuous deployment of machine learning models from the model registry to pre-production and production endpoints. Amazon SageMaker creates an AWS code commit code repository for you to manage your code and uses AWS code pipeline to deploy your machine learning models. We also have the templates for model building and training. This enables you to easily build and train machine learning models, evaluate models, and register them to the Amazon SageMaker model registry using Amazon SageMaker Pipelines. Again, you can adopt MLOps best practices and enable the CI/CD for building, training, evaluating, and registering your machine learning models to the model registry. Amazon SageMaker creates an AWS code commit code repository for you to manage your code and uses AWS code pipeline to build, train, and register your machine learning models. The one we're going to walk through today is the MLOps template for model building, training, and deployment. So this combines the capabilities of the first 2 templates and allows you to automate model deployment. So I'm just going to click and select this template here. And then the next step is going to be naming your new project. You can also provide a description. You can add tags if you need to for keeping track of different workflow processes. So I'm just going to call this demo. I think today's the 21st. And again, the description is optional. And then if you want to add tags, you can do that here as well. So I'll just hit create project. So now the project is being created. When you create a project, each and every SageMaker resource that is used, as well as any of the AWS resources, including all of the underlying artifacts, whether it's the CI/CD pipelines themselves or the specific artifacts that get produced in these pipelines, like the S3 buckets, they're all tagged with the same project name as well as the project ID. And you'll be able to see this project view in SageMaker Studio. So just wait for this to create. It usually takes just a second. So what's going to happen whenever this project is created, it's going to create 2 code repositories for you already. So this is the Hello World use case or the Abalone data use case examples that come with all newly created projects. There is one for a repo for building the model and a repo for deploying the model. So the model builds repository gets provisioned with seed code from the Abalone use case using the suggested workflow that's going to decouple your data pre-processing, model training, and model evaluation steps. The model deploy repository gets provisioned with seed code for deploying your endpoints using infrastructure as code in the form of CloudFormation templates. Whenever this project gets created, by default, we kick off the first pipeline execution. So let me just refresh this. If it takes a second, we can always just open up a project that I've already created. We'll just do that. So let's go into this demo here. So these are the repositories that I was talking about. So you get the model deploy and model build repositories. Here you'll see the local path to each of these repositories. So if I click here, this is automatically going to take me to my local file system within SageMaker Studio. So I've already cloned this to my local environment. And essentially, when you create a new project, there's just a clone repo button right here where this link is. You click that, everything is handled for you. So within this project, we can see that we have several different files here for the model create, model build repo. So we have a preprocess.py. So I'm going to go into, so the files we'll work through today is this SageMaker notebook. It's got some extra explanations or README in there. You also have the code build YAML. We'll have to look at this in just a second. The main piece I want to look at is this pipelines folder, and then go into the main folder here. So you see we have the preprocess.py file. So this is going to be defining your pre-processing steps. You have the pipeline.py file. So this is using the SDK to define the pipeline steps and parameters. And then you have the evaluate.py, which is your evaluation step. So whenever this is built, we can see that it is for the abalone example. So whenever you create a new project, what's happening is it's kicking off an example workflow. So you can see here, this is the clone repo piece from the new project we created. All the files are there already, but let's say we want to customize this to our specific use case. So I'm going to go into the local path for the model builds repo. And the first file I'm going to edit is this code build YAML file. So this line 15 here, run pipeline module name, pipelines.customerturn.pipeline. So essentially this here is your path. It's pointing to the path where you can open that pipeline.py file. So if we go to the pipelines folder, then we go to the customer turn folder, and then the pipeline.py file. Okay, so this is the next file we want to edit. Essentially, what's happening in this pipeline steps is everything that would need to happen. So defining the processing steps, the training steps, the evaluation step, and the model registration step. So first, what is the pipeline.py file? So pipelines is a directed acyclic graph of steps and conditions to orchestrate SageMaker jobs and resource creation. First, we're going to have some imports. So we have the, just the SageMaker session import. We're importing the estimator. We have our different steps. So the processing input, processing output, script processor. We also have model metrics imported. So metric source, model metrics here. We are going to have a condition step. So in this case, our model will get approved if it's greater than or equal to a certain metric that I specify. And you can change this to be greater, less than or equal to. You can just go to SageMaker workflow conditions and look at the different options there. And let's see. Here we have the pipeline definition. So we've got our region we specified above, the role, the default bucket, model package group name. This can be whatever you want to specify. Pipeline name. I actually grabbed this pipeline name from the first run that happened in the console here. So it's just the same as the pipeline name here that I input into the pipeline name. All right, so you can see here for our processing instance type, we have an MLM5X large. For our training instance type, we have the same MLM5X large. For the model approval status, we have pending manual approval. So I'll walk through the approval workflow as well. Here we're pointing to the raw data in the CSV file within a SageMaker S3 bucket. Our processing step, we have 3 outputs, a train, a validation, and a test file. we are going to use an XGBoost model using the SageMaker estimator. Here's our hyperparameters that we're setting. So I'm using a binary logistic model. Number of rounds is 50, max step 5, and some more hyperparameters you can edit to suit your specific use case. Here's our training step. So for the training job step, we have named it here. We've pointed to our SageMaker estimator we defined above. And you can see that the S3 data is pointing to the processing output folder train and pointing to the output folder validation from the previous pre-processing step. So here's our pre-processing step, or our processing step for evaluation. So this is evaluating the model from our evaluation.py file. The output is the input is our evaluate.py file, the output's a JSON file. And then here we are registering the model. So here I just named the registered model. We're specifying the estimator that we used, the instances that we'll use for transforming, the instances we'll use for inference, and then these we defined above. This JSON path, we have binary classification metrics .accuracy.value. So I'm just going to hop over to the evaluate.py file. So within this file, you will see this report dictionary. So we've imported the accuracy score, we've imported the ROC score, and your JSON file has to be in a specific organization format for the model metrics to display within the SageMaker Studio UI. So essentially here we have accuracy, we have a value. There's no standard deviation for this. We have the accuracy, the AUC value here. And that's what we're pointing to in our evaluation path here. So this is the JSON path from the report generated from this evaluate.py file. What's happening is this is being input into our condition step. So this is our condition greater than or equal to. So we'll put this model through the pipeline if the accuracy value is greater than or equal to 0.8. So let's look at what this pipeline step looks like as a DAG execution. So here we are, pipeline. Here's the graph. So here's the training step, the processing step, the processing step, then the training step, then the evaluation step, then the customer churn accuracy condition step. So if it was greater than or equal to 0.8 true, we're going to register the model. So I want to show you how to kick off a new workflow. So let's say we'll go to the training instance type. And let's say instead of a ML M5X large, we're just going to do a ML M5 large. You can also edit the hyperparameters, any piece here. We are going to go into the our repository. We can see that we are in the master branch. You can see the files that we have changed. Let's see. Oh, let's file and then save the Python file that I just edited. There we go. Now it's showing up here as a changed file. We'll stage those changes. You can stage these other changes as well if you want to. The summary, so we'll just say training instance change, and we will hit commit. So now we've committed the changes. Let's go up here and push the committed changes. Perfect. So what's happening in the SageMaker Studio now is we're going to see a new execution kickoff. But before we see that, I want to go into the console here, and let's go to code commit. And we're going to see where those changes were actually pushed to. Oh, of course. Let me stop sharing for a second and see if I can re-sign in to get this to show you guys. Okay, perfect. Now if I can find the Zoom share. Okay, here we are, share screen. Okay, I was in the wrong account. Hazards of a solutions architect with multiple examples sitting everywhere. Okay, so you can see that we are in the code commit tool. We have push changes 1 minute ago. We can go into this repository. We can see that if we go to commit, training instance change 1 minute ago by Hallie. And then if you want to view the code, we can view that as well. So let's see, if we go into pipelines, our customer churn folder, we edited the pipeline.py file. And you can see here we've changed our training instance type to ML M5 large. So if you're a DevOps person, you're going to see this screen if you've got access to the console. If you don't want to look at what's happening in the background, you just want to stay within the context of SageMaker Studio, you can do that as well. So now I want to show you what's happening as this pipeline is being, another run is being kicked off. So let's go to code pipeline. Our model build. Let's see. Let's refresh. Okay, so that was an earlier run. Sorry, I have a lot of things going here. So let's see. Let's just walk through this example. For each step, you can click on the icon here. You see the outputs. Here we have our S3 buckets to our test, evaluation, and train, just like we specified in the pipeline file. We have logs here. You can also go to CloudWatch logs if you want more detailed logs there as well. Just wait for that to populate. So this is processing, so it's pretty simple logs. And then different information here as well. So our instance type, our instance count, our input data URL, and also our ARN. So we can do this for each step, the train step, the evaluation step, the accuracy step. So another piece I want to show you is within the projects tab, we've looked at repositories, we've looked at pipelines. Let's look at model groups. So let's click on this model group. You can see I have several models here. Some of them are approved to production, some of them are approved to staging. Let's click on model version 8. Approval. So activity is status updated to pending manual approval. So let's update status. we will say approved, we'll say good metrics or whatever comment you want to add. And you can see that the status updated to approved. So let's go into metrics. Here you can see those metrics we specified in the evaluate.py file, both the accuracy and the AUC here. And then here you have all of the metadata and the different pieces that we specified within our pipeline.py file. So let's go back to this main screen here. So how do we get from deployed to staging or deployed to stage prod? So you as a data scientist have access to push models to a staging environment. But in order to get this push to prod, you have to go within the code deploy workflow and approve that within that workflow. You can't approve it based on this model template from here. So that's just a fail-safe to make sure that only production-ready models are being pushed to production. Let's see, is there anything else I want to show you? Oh, endpoints, yes. So here you can see that we have a staging endpoint in service. We have a production endpoint in service. So you can manage your endpoints from here. I haven't sent any data to this model endpoint yet, but you can, view data quality, model explainability. That's something that was added at reInvent this year as well. Bias drift. So if you want to detect certain drifts, and then of course you have all of your metadata and information here. So all of this is also available within the console, the SageMaker console. So essentially, if you're a data scientist, you only want to work within SageMaker Studio, you can do that. If you're a DevOps person, you've got access to the AWS console. You can get very much more granular into the specific data and workflows and custom templates that's available as well. So I'll pause there. I'll stop sharing. I see there's lots of questions in the chat. I'll hand it back to you, Chris.
Sure. Yeah, great stuff, Hallie. Okay, we have a few minutes. Yes, actually, Hallie, while you're on the line, I always like to ask some fun questions because I like getting to know my teammates and the community. What kind of music do you like? Yeah, just out of curiosity. What do you listen to when you're coding?
Oh, yeah, I'm a pretty big indie fan. So, it's typically, I'm into female folk indie. Yeah, so if you know Jade Bird, I like some of her stuff, especially.
Awesome. And where are you based? Are you in Seattle?
I sit in Austin, Texas.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're in Austin. Excellent. And this is your first reInvent, right?
It is. So I started with AWS in March. Fun fact, I've been to the AWS office once, and I've never met anyone in person that I work with, including during the interview stage. That was all remote as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Actually, I have questions about that. Like, you obviously got the job. Anything you felt that you missed out in the virtual loop?
I think you can definitely miss culture aspects. Even though most of my colleagues, like you guys, don't sit in my office anyways, there's typically, some solutions architects, some account reps that are in the office. So you have that bit of camaraderie, but most of the people I work with day to day don't sit in the office anyways. Also, I would say the benefit of it was not having to travel to all of the onboarding sessions. I could just sort of breeze through them at my own pace at home, which was quite nice. I didn't have to go to Seattle 3 or 4 times.
Right. Yeah, and one of the things all of the Amazon employees have to do is go through like a writing class and how to write like an effective narrative and and yeah, of course how to hire the best people. Yeah, I think I was able to do most of it in San Francisco, but had to go to Seattle for a few of those. Okay, and so this is your first reInvent. This is actually really me and Ansha's first reInvent. We joined right before reInvent last year, so we were in Vegas and helped out with Kubeflow workshops and SageMaker workshops. But yeah, I think we would all agree that I didn't realize how much actually goes on behind the scenes in the days and hours leading up to reInvent. Can you tell us a fun story? Because you were right.
Yeah, so yeah, so I'm a service SA, so I worked specifically with the pipelines engineering team. So there's a lot of input, what we're hearing from customers that gets input in real time, making sure that there's demos, there's code assets, there's a blog that's just waiting to be hit submit on from somebody higher than me. Making sure all that gets input and packaged nicely. And then, this is all around Thanksgiving. So the week before and after Thanksgiving, we're quite busy, just trying to make sure everything's ready to go for reInvent. And then, you've worked so intimately with this product till now's the time when, all your colleagues are reaching out to our group saying, can you do this demo, that demo for my customer? Can you talk with my customer? So there's a lot of work for internal enablement as well to make sure that the rest of our teammates are up to speed on pipelines and then vice versa, that I'm up to speed on Data Wrangler, Clarify, JumpStart. I can't name them all off the top of my head, but you get the point.
Yeah, I think one thing I was quite impressed with was, so while we were like getting familiar with these in the days leading up and the weeks leading up to reInvent, we had to get whitelisted our specific accounts, and things just kind of started to come together. Things looked really bleak like initially, and like we were getting access denied problems, and these services didn't look like they were going to come together, but then very quickly, yeah, everything came together, which was amazing. So I can't thank the engineering folks and yeah, the SAs enough. We've had calls with pretty much all of you guys. Me and Ansha have been trying to figure out what to put in the book and, like what flows well. So yeah, we really appreciate that. One other fun question. So it's, this whole working from home business, like one thing I like to do to keep my sanity is I purposely don't plug my laptop in. So I work all morning on just one battery charge. And when that battery charge dies, I go to the gym or, go out for a bike ride and then plug it in. And then when I come back, it's charged. So I've kind of forced myself based on the Apple Mac Pro, I don't know, 2016, whatever this is, 18. So that's my work cycle, and that's been keeping me sane. Do you have any tips on that?
Oh, I probably am not a good example.
Yeah, especially these last couple months leading up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I sit in Central Time Zone, so I work with both East Coast, West Coast, and then some international, teams. So I found that, I might have a meeting at 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. It really varies on the day. But I think if I had my choice every day, I'm kind of I start at 8 a.m., California time, and will work till 5 p.m. California time. But I'm also a new hire. I mean, I guess I'm not a year in yet. So there's a lot of extra work I feel like I need to do just to onboard and make sure I'm up to speed. So hopefully once all of that wraps up, and in the new year, I can have a more sane schedule.
Sure, sure. Awesome. We're at the top of the hour. There's already people dropping off. Time is precious indeed. So yeah, Hallie, thanks again so much. Is there a blog post coming out, I believe? Do you have the link to that?
There is.
Okay. I can post the link later on. Okay. Yeah, so I'll follow.
Yeah, it's coming. You know, I told you last week there's an 85% chance that will be published.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, there's a lot of review before things can get pushed to these blogs. So yes, understandable. Awesome, Hallie. Thanks so much. Reminder, everyone, we've got full workshop. We're doing this monthly, of course, and then we have the full workshop coming up here as well too. So let me paste that link in real quick. And we'll see you all next month. Happy holidays, stay safe, and see you in 2021.
Happy holidays, everyone. Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.